Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.
It took a lifetime to find the person you want to marry. Finding the perfect engagement ring is a lot easier. At BlueNile.com, you can find or design the ring you've always dreamed of with help from Blue Nile's jewelry experts who are on hand 24/7 to answer questions and the ease and convenience of shopping online. For a limited time, get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com. That's $50 off with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com.
Welcome to 31 Days of Terror, day number 8, and I have 2 spooky stories for you today, and the last story comes from August the 29th, 2024, and story number 1 comes from Rachel. Haunting? I don't know. I was spending the night at my boyfriend's apartment, as I had done many times before. The apartments were pretty old. This was in 1990 or so, and the apartments were built in the early 60s. Our relationship was kind of rocky and he was not the most supportive individual. One night we went to bed and he fell directly to sleep as usual, but I have horrible insomnia and frequently take hours to drift off. I began to hear music. Great, that's really going to help. I was trying to place the tune. The song ended and started over, and then over again. It gradually grew loud enough that I could make out that it was Painted Black by the Rolling Stones. If you've never heard it, it's a very dark, angry song with a haunting melody. I just looked it up and realised that it was released the year before I was born, in 1966. Over and over it played, getting louder, and with the volume came a sense of panic and dread. But also I was angry. People are so inconsiderate. My boyfriend was of course sleeping through all of this, and I got up to try and ascertain which direction the song was coming from. I walked through the living room and kitchen. I went outside and walked to the middle of the parking lot. The volume never wavered, never changed, and a chill crossed over me. That uncanny valley feeling. That was not the way that sound worked. The fear and panic escalated and I went inside to wake up my boyfriend. He blinked and of course said that he heard no music. He heard no music and went back to sleep. I decided that it was these apartments. They frequently had given me the heebie-jeebies and I decided the boyfriend could just wonder where I was when he got up, and I grabbed my keys and left. I got in my car and turned up the music, but it clashed with Painted Black, still blaring in my head. The fuck was happening? I cried all the way home, unsure of what to do. I got home and through the Rolling Stones blaring in my head, I prayed over and over again, and I took a sleeping pill and some alcohol and an antihistamine and some cough syrup, and I rocked until I fell asleep. I woke up the next day and it was gone. I've looked into musical tinnitus, hyperacusis and the like, but none of them really fit the situation. And there was the oppressive doom and dread on top of the sound that can't be accounted for. To this day, I really don't know what that was, but I couldn't listen to that song for a good decade after that. I'm going to pause briefly in between Rachel's stories because she sent in two, and it's just sort of easier to address this one first. First of all, Paint It Black. Great song. When it gets stuck in your head, though, it does get stuck in your head. But there's a big difference between something getting stuck in your head and something playing over and over again to the point that you think it's external. So my brain is often very jumbled. My brain is often, going at 1,000 miles an hour in 1,000 different directions at the same time. And often on top of that, there is a soundtrack. So there will be a song playing underneath all of that. And it can be very frustrating, especially when my brain feels really full. It can be a really difficult thing to manage. But this story honestly made my skin crawl. The idea of sitting in the car driving home with Paint It Black still blaring in your head, like, what the fuck? I'd be crying all the way home too. That is so terrifying. I don't even know what you would call this. Like, I know that you looked into musical tinnitus and hyperacusis and all of that, and I've met people before who have had say auras before they had seizures that were auditory hallucinations of people's voices or music or whatever, but I have never met anybody who has had a song play over and over again in their head to the point that they think it's external. And then for it to just be gone in the morning, like, was it an omen? Was it a warning? I mean, it's a pretty cool song to have as your omen. I know, all right, I'm not trying to make light of this because I know this must have been very traumatizing at the time. I would be terrified if I had the song playing over and over my head, but at least it was a good song. Okay, let's dive into Rachel's second story. I was a teenager and on vacation with my family in Breckenridge, Colorado over the summer. Absolutely gorgeous and perfect weather. My family does tend to be hangabout types, not the outdoorsy adventure types. But on this particular day, my family were going to a water park and I was not interested. I was right in the middle of the latest Dean Koontz novel, and I really just wanted to hang out and read. The condominium we were staying in was a loft, so the top floor was open to the bottom floor. My sister and I were staying upstairs and my parents were in the bedroom downstairs. I hated this condo. It felt oppressive from the moment I stepped in, like the air was thicker. I was only 15 or 16 years old and was still rather new to sensing energy, but it did not feel welcoming. I had conveniently forgotten this fact when I decided to stay behind that day, until the door slammed shut and I was alone. Oops. The book I was reading was very scary to me. I don't recall which book it was now, but it haunted my dreams more so than this ghost event, so it must have been bad. I could feel something watching me up in the loft, so I moved downstairs. Whatever it was still was watching me, and I was honestly fairly terrified. I'm trying to pretend I don't notice it and continue reading, but I'm sure it was pretty obvious with me looking up every 20 seconds and looking around. Looking back, my terror from reading this book was probably a delightful afternoon snack for this entity or spirit or whatever it was. I finally had to put the book down because I was not reading anymore, just being terrified. It was at this point that whatever it was decided to rush me. I literally felt like it was surrounding me like an amoeba and pushing in. I did what any sensible person would do and ran out the door. Slam. The feeling immediately subsided, but now I had another problem. I was barefoot and locked out of the condo. This is pre-cell phone and my family is gone for the day. Good thing I had breakfast. I sat outside the condo for a bit, but the surroundings were so amazing I took to wandering. Behind the condo was a stream. In Texas, we'd call this a river, but for a state with actual waterways, it was a stream. Although it had very fast-moving water. The sound of the rushing water, the smell of pine, it was medicine. I looked up and saw a small bridge crossing over the stream, and in front of that some very large boulders out in the water. They were spaced just so and gave me an idea. I was barefoot, which to me meant I was more sure-footed than if I was shod, and I climbed and jumped the boulders until I was sitting in the middle of the stream, with white water splashing all around me, the smell of pine, dappled sunshine. I went from abject horror to one of the most wonderful moments of my young life. It was so beautiful and meaningful to me that it became my special place. The place they tell you to go to if you are afraid or are meditating or whatever. On those rocks. I realise that this brings down the fear factor of this story, but I find it a funny contrast of emotions for one day. Eventually I wandered back towards the condo and my family had come home. My mom asking why her Dean Koontz book was in the middle of the floor and where the hell I had been barefoot. She wouldn't have believed me if I told her, so I didn't. I didn't sleep well that night, but made sure I was never alone for a second, and we left the next day. I really want to go back, but definitely not to that condo. It's very easy to forget that somewhere has an oppressive atmosphere when it's full of other people. Like, you're there with your family, you're having a nice time. You sort of, I imagine, would kind of put the oppressive atmosphere aside and just get on with your day. And then you're like, oh, I'm really stuck into this book. So, I'd rather stay home and read it. And then obviously the minute everyone's gone, you're like, oh shit, yes, I forgot. This place is scary as shit. And you know what? You're probably right that this entity, spirit, whatever the heck it was probably like, oh, delicious, all this fear from her reading this scary book by Dean Koontz, loving it, and it probably, I don't know, gave it a sense of power or control or whatever. But I'm glad that you got out, and I'm glad that you found your special meditation place, because that is a happy end to an otherwise pretty scary story.
To get people excited about Boost Mobile's new nationwide 5G network, we're offering unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month.
Forever.
Even if you have a baby.
Even if your baby has a baby.
Even if you grow old and wrinkly and you start repeating yourself.
Even if you start repeating yourself.
Even if you're on your deathbed and you need to make one last call.
Or text.
Right, or text. The long-lost son you abandoned at birth.
You'll still get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile.
Forever!
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Forever.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hey, true crime fans. Tired of ads interrupting your gripping investigations? Good news. With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. After all, ads shouldn't be the scariest thing about true crime. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free true crime. That's amazon.com/ad-free true crime to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ACAST and use code ACAST at checkout.
And story number 2 comes from Bree. I've dealt with a lot of creepy paranormal things since I was in middle school, and I'm 22 now. I can't name them all, or else it would be a 40-minute long episode, but I will give you at least 3 of the creepier stories that I have. When I was around 16 years old, I had a lot of things happening in my childhood home. My room was on the other side of this one-level 1970s built home, for context. I normally have tapping on my wall that would go in a specific pattern. But this night, it turned into loud bangs, like a hand hitting the wall behind my bed. I ended up just turning on The Dark Knight Rises, my go-to show, to watch on full volume so I could get some sleep. I woke up to the TV being off and I could not move. I decided I wanted to yell out for my mom, even though I was on the other end of the house. And as I was trying to yell, I realised that nothing was coming out. A hand felt like it was slowly creeping over my mouth to the point where even if I could yell out, there was no way. I somehow started to be able to move, and I bit down on this hand as hard as I possibly could, and it pulled away from my face, and I managed to turn over onto my side and push whatever was on my bed with me onto the floor. I heard it hit like a body. I immediately was able to move. I jumped up and flew out of the door to my mom's room, telling her that there was somebody in there. My mom and dad went to check and nobody was in my room. At one point, about 2 years later, I was living with my boyfriend and his parents, who had recently purchased a 1922 farmhouse that had a lot of history involved with it. I was walking up the stairs and had told my boyfriend, "Okay, go grab the water and tidy up anything before bed," and I headed upstairs. You could clearly see our bedroom across the hall. We didn't have a lot of lights on in the house due to it being a renovation, and I looked down the hall into our bedroom. I see that the door's cracked enough for a person to be standing there, and I see my boyfriend in his boxers with his back facing me. I yelled out to him and said, "Did you put away the stuff and fill the water bottle?" He moved out of the way into the pitch dark room. I yelled again and said, "Did you fucking hear me?" I know, not very nice. It was late and I was tired. All of a sudden, I heard a loud whisper say, "Hey." Just so you know, my boyfriend used to do this to me all the time and wait for me around corners, which was not very nice. So I chalked it up to him trying to scare me. I flew down the stairs, but as I was going down the stairs, I was met face to face with my boyfriend with the water bottle full, and I started crying immediately. He checked the room. Nothing was there. This next story is when I only had been with my boyfriend for about 6 months. I was staying at his grandma's house. There was a mother-in-law suite where his grandma lived. His aunt was downstairs sleeping in her room, and his mom was in her bedroom sleeping down the hall. All these rooms you would have to walk by to go to the bathroom. Down the hall I had the dog and the cat sitting on the couch, and I was waiting for my boyfriend to get off work because he worked the night shift. All of a sudden I heard a huge clatter in the bathroom and immediately was freaking out. I called my boyfriend and said, "You need to get your ass home." He said he was about 10 minutes away. I was like, "Alright, well, you're staying on the phone until you get home." He went into the bathroom with me and we flipped on the light and saw that the toilet seat was up and my entire overnight bag with brand new toothbrushes and everything was in the toilet, ruined. I started crying and saying, "What the hell just happened?" and my boyfriend was just astonished. We knew that no one in the house would have done it because nobody was rude like that. And there were no boys in the house at the time to have lifted the toilet seat up. And I was the last one to have used that bathroom. We weren't able to figure out any reasonable explanations to the stories, but they are just a few of the creepier ones that have happened to me. But just so you know, I don't have any creepy stuff happen anymore. I found out that something was attached to an archangel necklace that I wore every day since everything started happening. So going back to the very first story, Bree, very scary that you'd have that pattern sort of, tapping on the wall. I wonder what that means, whether it was just something trying to get your attention. And if it makes you feel any better, if you're looking for reassurance, you might not be. Your episode of the hand kind of slowly creeping over your mouth, it does sound like very vivid sleep paralysis. And I'm not saying it's not paranormal. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I'm just saying that if you wanted a way that you could write it off as something that was, not supernatural, you could say, "Oh, actually, this just sounds like a really kind of extreme episode of sleep paralysis." And maybe that'll give you a bit of comfort. But in regards to your second story, it really does sound like you had an experience with some sort of mimic type entity, that you see your boyfriend with his back to you and then you have that whisper, "Hey," in your ear. That feels like some sort of mimic entity. And I don't know, we talk about mimics all the time and I'm no closer to figuring out what they are or what they could be or what they could represent or what they could want. Right? I'm no closer to figuring that out. The lab coat is on, but I'm still very much scratching my head. And honestly, that last one, I don't blame you for being so upset about it, because not only is it scary, as in you'd be thinking, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" The toilet seat was up and my overnight bag would be in it, but all your stuff getting ruined would make me bawl my eyes out. And I feel like at the end of this, you sort of brushed past a pivotal piece of information. You said you found out that something was attached to an archangel necklace that you wore every day, since everything started happening. I wanted, where did you get the necklace from? How did you find out something was attached to it? That's wild. Fundamentally, I'm glad that everything has stopped happening to you, because I can't imagine it's pleasant having any of these experiences, knocks on the wall, feeling something put its hand over your mouth while you're sleeping, seeing a mimic, getting all your shit ruined, all of your overnight stuff ruined down the toilet. All of it's unpleasant, and I'm glad it stopped for you. Thank you so much for listening to 31 Days of Terror, day number 8. Thank you so much to Rachel and Bree for sending in your stories. Remember, the last story came from August the 29th, 2024. And if you would like to send in your stories, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website, reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or $2 a month, you get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves, all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.